Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It's Tuesday, July 22nd, the last day without Pittsburgh Steelers football on the calendar for quite some time. The Steelers will report to training camp at St. Vincent College tomorrow. I will be there with the rest of the Steelers Now team. Excited. Can't wait for some real football to talk about, even if tomorrow was just guys moving in the run test, which was a big deal last year. So we'll see. Today, I want to talk about training camp, and we talked a little bit yesterday about roster battles in terms of guys trying to earn starting roles. And I'll be honest, I don't think there are very many on this team. Talked a little bit yesterday with Smitty about maybe can Caleb Johnson take over for Jalen Warren. Maybe you could consider Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson being a battle. Maybe you consider Roman Wilson to be in a battle with Robert Woods or Ben Skoranek. To me, there are very few actual position battles. There's one, really, and that's sort of the three-way battle. We know Jalen Ramsey is going to play, but where and what does that mean for Beanie Bishop and Juan Thornhill? That's kind of the one spot. Who's the fifth defensive back? We know the first four, Porter, Slay, Ramsey, Deshaun Elliott. Who's the fifth? Is it Thornhill or is it Bishop? There's one battle. I think every other starting spot on the team is accounted for right now. There aren't even all that many backup spots, I think, that are really up for grabs. Like, none on offense, really. I guess like the number 5 and 6 defensive linemen are kind of up for grabs. And then like who's the dime corner follows the nickel discussion. You can add whoever loses out between Thornhill and Bishop. You can add to that Corey Trice, Brandon Eccles, I guess to a lesser extent James Pierre and Dante Kent. There are very few job battles on this team. So let's talk some roster battles. Let's talk about some guys that I think right now, as we enter training camp, have some work to do to get their name called or are in danger of losing a spot. Let's start on offense. I think one of the most obvious ones, Cordero Patterson at running back. Elevated salary, not that the Steelers are really in a cap crunch, did not perform well as a kick returner last year. Was fine when he was used as a running back, but it's a lot of money for a number 3 running back. They have some other options there. Gainwell, Johnson, Warren. That's 1, 2, 3. I can't see Patterson passing one of those guys. So he's running back 4, which maybe 4 running backs make the team, maybe not. And the kick returner. That's probably not worth his salary. Can he still make the team? Yeah, but I think he's got a lot of work to do. I don't see him as holding a spot right now. Another guy on offense that I think has some work to do, or at least has a significant challenge coming, is Connor Hayward. Connor Hayward has the number 4 tight end spot, and there aren't always 4 tight ends on the roster. I think there probably will be with Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, kind of 1AB in whatever order. Darnell Washington is a very strong next option, and then Connor Hayward. But I like DJ Thomas-Jones a lot, an undrafted free agent. Connor Hayward has special teams value. I'm just saying I don't think his spot is the lock that it has been in years past. Let's talk about Robert Woods. I think as a veteran wide receiver the Steelers brought in, I don't think has a roster spot locked up right now. Yes, 1, 2, 3, Metcalf, Austin, Wilson, not overwhelming talent-wise. But the Steelers have been looking at bringing somebody else in. If that happens, I think Robert Woods is kind of the guy, the odd man out, right? Ben Skoranek, 2-year contract, great special teams value. Don't see him being cut. So if he's wide receiver 5, and let's say they bring someone in, okay, there's spots for Wilson and Austin. Where's the spot for Robert Woods, especially if he doesn't have special teams, even if you do keep 6 wide receivers? I think maybe you'd be more likely to keep someone like Scotty Miller or one of the young guys like Rock Taylor, Montana Lamonius Craig. I thought looked really good in UDFA and a UDFA who looked really good in OTAs. Flipping over to the defense, that defensive line, man, I don't think Dean Lowry has a spot in ink. I mean, I know he's a vet. I know he's been very good. There's definitely the 3 starters, Benton, Hayward, and Harmon ahead of him. Wyatt Black's going to make the team, almost certainly. Daniel Akawale, I think, is going to land ahead of Lowry. I think Isaiah Loudermilk has shown that he's ahead of Lowry right now. That's 6. There's the 7th, and then you've got Logan Lee in that mix too, who I also think was a 6th-round pick last year. I think he didn't play, missed a whole year with a calf injury. That he certainly wasn't injured the whole year, but sat out the second half of the year, sort of a redshirt thing. I don't think either of those guys, to me, has a roster spot locked up right now and has some work to do. At edge, DeMarvin Leal, who played there in the spring, I don't know if he'll stay there. It's almost hard to fathom how he can make the team. I think he has a lot of work to do with the drafting of Zach Sawyer at that position. There's a big log jam. Jeremiah Moon, I think his spot, he was on the team all last year. I think his spot's in jeopardy right now. And then you look at the off-ball linebacker. Carson Bruner was a 7th-round pick. It's hard to imagine how he gets past. I mean, there's a lot of people to get past. I mean, clearly Queen, Wilson, Malik Harrison are going to make the team. Cole Holcomb, I think, has looked great since he's come back. I don't think his spot is a lock. I think clearly he's the best linebacker of the rest of the options. But the question will be, do they get enough special teams value from Harrison and from the other positions on defense to take Holcomb there? I don't think Holcomb's a bad special teamer, but that's not necessarily been his forte. Or do you go with Mark Robinson, who I think his spot is also in jeopardy, even if they don't keep Bruner? I mean, both of those guys, I think, could be on the wrong side of the 53 line, and it's hard to see how both of them could possibly fit in without some injuries, even if they do get in, even if one of them does pass by Cole Holcomb. You look at cornerback. I mean, I talked a little bit about it when we talked about the dime battle, but yes, Porter, Slay, Ramsey, certainly locked onto the team. Brandon Eccles, 2-year deal. He's here. Corey Trice, I think a guy they really like, even though he was a later pick. I would really be hard-pressed to see them cutting Corey Trice, but now you're already to 5 corners. You still got Beanie Bishop. You still got Dante Kent, who was their 7th-round pick, and you still got James Pierre, who's been a really valuable special teamer. Certainly not going to keep 8. There's a couple of big, bad cuts there from that cornerback position coming, if not maybe even a trade. I wouldn't rule out a trade away from that group because I think it's really deep and really good. We'll see. Safety is the opposite. I don't know who makes the team at safety behind Elliott, behind Thornhill, and behind Miles Killebrew. Maybe Ramsey and Slay can demonstrate the ability to play enough safety through training camp that they are comfortable only keeping 3 safeties on the roster. Quindell Johnson is a guy who came in really late in the spring. I can't say I know that much about him. I guess he's an option. Sebastian Castro only played strong safety. I wouldn't think that's the place where they feel like they need a ton of help. I think they'll probably try to get him to the practice squad. But, I mean, all the depth in the secondary is at corner and none of the depth in the secondary is at safety. It wouldn't surprise me if they make a late add here a la their Quan Alexander signing a few days into training camp 2 years ago, except this time at the safety position. But that's a lot of guys on the bubble. I think it's going to be a really competitive training camp in terms of that roster bubble. And I think a lot of the starting jobs are set. I think a lot of the backup jobs are set. But there's going to be guys fighting tooth, nail, clawing, biting to try to make this roster. And I think that's the sign of a pretty good football team. I think the Steelers have quality depth at a lot of positions, not everywhere. Obviously, they're thin at wide receiver a little bit. They're thin at free safety a lot of bit. I don't think they're exceptionally deep on the offensive line. I think kind of those guys that are in the backup role, and the reason I didn't mention a battle there, I guess there is one. They probably won't keep all of Spencer Anderson, Dylan Cook, Max Sharping, Ryan McCollum, and who am I missing? Calvin Anderson. Won't keep 10, so somebody's going to get cut there. But it's, I think there's nobody else that could play their way into that conversation. And I think a lot of those boxes are being checked by default right now just because there's clearly not really anyone else. So those are probably the three positions where they're not very deep. But everywhere else, I mean, right down to, hey, let's say I don't think the third quarterback job is Will Howard's walking into camp. I think he's going to have to earn it. I expect that he will, but I do expect when they roll out there the first day of training camp, he's the fourth quarterback through the drills. I will think that Skylar Thompson will start ahead of him, and we'll see where things go from there. So to me, I think the roster battles are probably the more intriguing storyline for Steelers training camp this year than those starting jobs, which I think on paper anyway seem pretty well spoken for. That's all for this morning. More with Smitty at 6 and then camp tomorrow. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform so you don't miss an episode. Steelers Morning Rush, Steelers Afternoon Drive, all the great content we got coming up. More stuff coming up with new hosts even. I'm very excited about that. We will see you all later. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.